Hello, Ron Baker here, and welcome to Empowered at Last. Today we're going to talk about a subject that I think is really important. It's something that I watch quite often taking place around me, and I am baffled at how powerfully this subject runs so many lives. The subject is the power of apologizing. I understand it, and I certainly had my own journey with it. So it's not a subject that I share from some position of, why are you all having a problem with this? No, I had a big problem working through my own challenges around apologizing. So I want to talk about it and set the record straight with some deeper perspectives that you may not have thought about. Apologizing. So many people perceive that it equals an admission that I am wrong. I am wrong. Some people's wounded stuff even goes so far as to feel that it equals an admission that I am unlovable, or that I don't deserve to still be included. Why is that? I have been working with clients all around the world for 25 years, thousands of clients, and I know the psychology of it quite well, and we come from a very wounded world. We come from a world that has not known how to nurture. We have come from a world that has not learned how to value self, nurture and value self. We don't come from a world that has known how to model those things. And we don't need to blame the ones who've come before us. They simply didn't know how, because nobody before them. It's been a long time pattern of wounding, generation after generation after generation. And the conversation, I was going to say the subject, but the conversation has begun to shift on the planet in the last decade or two. And we're learning things, and we're looking deeper, and we are seeking for ways to set our lives up better and better and better. We have more access to each other. We have more access to the people who are innovators and moving forward and introducing new, more effective approaches to life. We have access to more models who are choosing to inspire, nurturing, and value. So let's go back to apologizing. Apologizing is actually a very, very healthy practice when it's done with a healthy intention. I'm not talking about I always blame myself and therefore I'm going to apologize every 5 minutes for whatever I'm doing wrong and bad. That's a symptom of wounding, and a lot of people are caught in those myths because that's what life taught them. That's what their caregivers and their family systems taught them. Why? Because those family systems, like most, haven't known how to nurture and value and have a learning curve and need to be able to move through a healthy process of mistakes, trial and error, learning from what doesn't work just as powerfully as we learn from what does work. Apologizing is a healthy way to take responsibility that I made a mistake or that I impacted you in a way that I wish I hadn't. even if it wasn't my intention to impact you that way. Let me give you a clear example. I was in a session with someone I adore just last week, and she shared something. I heard her, I honored it inside, but my response was to enhance her perspective, not to acknowledge what she had just said. And so when I said, yes, and have you considered this and this and this, I wasn't reading the moment very well. I wasn't seeing how tender what she had just shared actually was to her. And so even though it wasn't my intention, and I would have never attempted to invalidate what she was sharing, only to enhance it, but I ended up hurting her feelings and shutting her down. The great news is that there's enough process and sharing and trust and value and love in the sessions that we had built up to that point that she spoke up and said, I need to talk about that. That hurt my feelings. That did not feel good. And I said, oh my goodness, I am so sorry that I impacted you that way. It was not my intention. That's one version of healthy apologizing. So if I said such a thing to you, I hope it would make you feel honored and valued better in some way. The power of apology. Now let's talk about a learning curve. I only know how to do this, sort of, whatever this is. I only know how to do it sort of, and as I go through the learning curve of trying to do it, I make some mistakes, and those mistakes might impact other people. I apologize. I made a mistake. I'm just learning. When you hear those words from me, does it make you go, oh my goodness, he is wrong and bad and unlovable? Hopefully not. And yet, we don't always take the time to slow down and go, when Sally, Fred, and George apologized to me, I feel so much better. I feel honored and valued and heard. But we don't apply it to ourselves. When I apologize, it equals something totally different. We don't focus on how it might make Sally, Fred, and George feel honored and heard and valued. We stay focused on our own wounding. This is what happens so often, except for those people who are wounded in a way where they've been knocked down and shamed and blamed so often that they just naturally apologize for everything. We've probably all been around those particular wounds. That is a particular hell as well. And so even if you say to those people, please don't apologize, they say, oh, I'm so sorry. They apologize for apologizing. Recognize if that's one of your patterns and interrupt it and evaluate. The reason to apologize is to give yourself the honor, not the diminishment, the honor of taking responsibility if you've impacted someone in a way that you wish you hadn't. It does not equal self-blame. It does not equal self-recrimination. It does not equal you're bad, wrong, or unlovable at all. If that's your apology, then it's more about guilt and shame. guilt and shame have nothing to do with healthy apology. Healthy apology says, I am capable of taking responsibility, not blame. I am capable of taking responsibility for my actions. Sometimes I even apologize to myself for not treating myself so well. I talk to my inner child, which is a very real thing, held in the subconscious, frozen, wounded parts of ourselves. Sometimes I, the adult, have to apologize to my child inside for not having known how, or for acting in a way that I don't feel great about, for treating myself badly, when I am the one shaming myself. Apology is a reliever of pressure. It claims responsibility and honors or returns you to a sense of honor and integrity. But man, have I not lived in a world where that was what the perspective of apology has been. We tend to have three primary ways that people have defended themselves. Either they're always blaming themselves and apologizing, which we already covered. Some are always blaming others and demanding that they are sorry, not that they get to return to honor and value. No, it's your fault. Why? Because it can't be my fault. When we're stuck in a system of right and wrong and good and bad, there's no win-win. There's no win-win. And if there's only good, bad, right, wrong, then my wounded, childish impression is going to think I always have to avoid being wrong. Other wounds say, oh no, it's okay, I don't want you to feel bad, I'll be wrong. Right, wrong, good, bad from shame and blame is not healthy. Learning curves, apologizing, taking responsibility, allowing yourself to express remorse and then let it go. It's like a process of forgiveness, apologizing. The other form of defense tends to be the people, which I was one of, who are so threatened by the idea that the mental body has to come up with a way to be right. I can justify my position. It's a panic. If you are feeling a panic to have to be right, it's because you're not at peace with the choice and the learning curve. Why was I like that before I had done all this healing work? Because I was trying to compensate and avoid feeling the shame and blame on the inside that I actually felt. No, I will defend and separate from all that, and I will avoid being wrong at all costs, and when I can't, I didn't feel comfortable apologizing. So, most people on the planet have not considered apologizing, not blaming and shaming, apologizing such an integrous, healthy, courageous thing to do. And it's a neutralizer. Once I've apologized, I can release myself from that part of my learning curve, and I can move on, having learned and grown and deepened and developed, if I'm smart and pay attention. That's what I encourage in all of you. So whether you find yourself to be someone who blames and shames yourself, someone who blames and shames others, or someone who is just so deeply afraid that apologizing equals I'm wrong, I'm bad, I will be unlovable, I will be seen The only time I'm afraid of being seen a certain way is if I already see myself that way somewhere deep inside me. The power of apology is something that needs to be embraced in a healthy way, because it feels so dang good when someone takes responsibility when they've impacted me. And therefore, I'm going to apply that and trust that it will feel so dang good to them when I take responsibility as well. And if I go ahead and take the lead on that, without beating myself up and blaming and shaming myself, I'm going to model, I'm going to teach, and I'm going to plant seeds of the healthy alternative of apologizing. So I wish for you, in this call to action, to take time to evaluate where you need to take responsibility in your life and practice a healthy version of apologizing so that you return to a choice that you are thrilled you have made. Build your own self-value. Become proud of yourself for making choices that are healthy. That's my wish for you. And so I close this week's talk with choose well. Apologize in healthy ways. Choose well. Live fully. And by all means, be good to you. Have a great week. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Before we close, I wanted to encourage a couple of things. Number one is to go to ronbaker.net. There you will find lots of clues for how you can deepen this conversation. You can also find a way to get the booklet, An Essential Guide to the 9 Nurturing Needs. This is going to be a core focus of how we're going to enhance the quality of your life from the inside out in all the episodes. So I encourage you to go there to get an overview of those 9 nurturing experiences that we all seek more than any other thing in our lives. I also want you to get involved in the conversation here. I really would like to talk about the things that are important to you, the things that you're concerned about or excited about. We live in a wacky world that is changing constantly. We need to learn to connect to ourselves, to count on ourselves, and to count on one another. So please either get involved at ronbaker.net or in the Facebook page, which is Empowered at Last with Ron Baker. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to deepening this conversation about life. And I close as always, choose well, live fully, and by all means, be good to you. Have a great week.